All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's character development lecture, focusing on the absolute enduring icon of Mortal Kombat, Hanzo Hasashi. In this explainer, we're going to look way beyond the surface of just, fighting game mechanics to analyze a truly masterful narrative arc. We're going to examine exactly how a character transforms from a one-dimensional, super vengeful specter into a deeply honorable, disciplined anti-hero. I let go my rage, and it saved me. To save yourself, you must do the same. Man, what a powerful line. This quote from Mortal Kombat 11 perfectly frames our psychological case study today. It's spoken by an older, much wiser Hanzo to his past, rage-consumed self, and it just highlights the core of his entire journey, making that conscious decision to choose healing over hatred. It is literally a journey of how a wrathful demon reclaims his humanity. Okay, let's run through today's syllabus real quick. 1. Character study, the mascot. 2. Navigating the 3 timelines. 3. Vengeance to honorable anti-hero. 4. Hellfire versus refined discipline. 5. Weapons as narrative tools. And 6. The legacy of Hanzo Hasashi. So, jumping right into Section 1, Character Study, the mascot, the face of a franchise. Now, what's really fascinating here is how his moral ambiguity sets him apart from day one. Scorpion debuted in the very first 1992 arcade game. Back then, you had purely virtuous good guys and diabolically evil bad guys, right? But Scorpion, he sat firmly in the gray. He was this terrifying undead ninja with a flaming skull who yelled, "Get over here," while literally impaling you. Yet he wasn't actually evil. He was just an immensely tragic figure, manipulated into allying with dark forces to avenge his murdered family. That nuance, that's exactly what made him the undeniable face of the franchise. Moving on to Section 2, Navigating the 3 timelines. Rebirth, Restoration, and the New Era. The crucial thing to observe here is how his baseline trope completely shifts over the decades. In the original timeline, he is a literal hell-spawned wraith. He mistakenly believes the original Sub-Zero, Baihan, massacred his Shirai Ryu clan, totally unaware that the sorcerer Quan Chi is actually pulling the strings. Then, in the 2011 alternate timeline, we finally see him restored to his human form, burdened by immense grief, sure, but determined to rebuild his clan as protectors. And most recently, in the 2023 New Era timeline, the Hanzo identity is basically a blank slate. He's a homeless, starving orphan taken in to build a brand new Shirai Ryu. So his baseline goes from monster to grieving father to a child with potential. All right, Section 3, Vengeance to honorable anti-hero, the psychology of healing. This split right here brilliantly illustrates the duality of Hanzo Hasashi. On one side, you have the mindless monster forged by Quan Chi's manipulation. As a specter, his whole existence is tied solely to untamed, blinding rage over the loss of his wife Harumi and his son Satoshi. But look at the human traits. Once he's restored to humanity, this deeply caring Grandmaster emerges. He doesn't just seek revenge anymore. He takes in refugees from the Netherrealm War. He raises war orphans like Takeda, the son of the swordsman Kenshi, as his own flesh and blood. He totally transitions from a destroyer to a protector. So, as students of narrative design, we've got to ask ourselves a pretty vital question here. In a medium where the primary interaction is literal hand-to-hand combat, how in the world do you express a character's internal, psychological healing through their physical moveset? Well, that brings us nicely to Section 4, Hellfire versus Refined Discipline, Ludonarrative Storytelling. According to the expanded lore from the MKX comics, Scorpion's wrath powers and his hellfire aren't just, standard magic. They are literally fueled by his own emotional pain. To even use hellfire, Hanzo has to actively relive his greatest traumas, like the murder of his family. Initially, his chaotic reliance on hellfire acts as a dangerous, physical manifestation of his untamed grief. It's incredibly powerful, for sure, but overusing it risks his Scorpion persona completely taking over and destroying his very existence. And you can actually track this shift mechanically across the game eras. In the early games, his moveset is totally dominated by wild, fiery bursts and chaotic teleportation, which perfectly reflects his uncontrollable rage. But as we move into the 3D era, he starts adopting specific, highly disciplined martial arts like Hapkido and Pai Gua. By MKX and MK11, where he's reclaimed his humanity, his fighting style is grounded in highly refined ninjutsu. The wild flames are pulled way back, replaced by the structured discipline of a grandmaster whose mind has finally begun to heal. Which leads us into Section 5, Weapons as narrative tools, from brutality to mastery. You see this exact same progression with his weaponry. Back in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 and MK4, Scorpion wielded an axe and a heavy longsword. I mean, these are weapons of brutal, blunt force, tools meant to just crush and destroy. But as he transitions toward his human identity, he starts favoring the Mugai Ryu. By Mortal Kombat 11, he's utilizing these beautifully refined tanto and katana blades. Swapping out a brutal axe for a precise katana visually proves our thesis. His combat mechanics mature and become way more precise as he reclaims his honor. Even his absolute most iconic signature move, the spear attack, evolved mechanically. In the original arcade titles, it was just this blunt, violent pull that yanked the opponent in for a chaotic, wild uppercut. But look at the difference in MK11. When human Hanzo lands the spear now, he doesn't just swing wildly. He actively steps around behind the opponent after the pull, executing a calculated, disciplined katana slash. Blind Fury is entirely replaced by lethal discipline. Finally, Section 6. The Legacy of Hanzo Hasashi. Defining the anti-hero. Scorpion is absolutely the quintessential video game anti-hero. I mean, he is not a knight in shining armor. The guy literally crawled out of the Netherrealm. His initial willingness to ally with dark forces solely to avenge his family makes him deeply flawed and incredibly dangerous. Yet, when he finally uncovers the truth, he ultimately chooses to protect Earthrealm. He does the right thing, sure, but often through some pretty gruesome vigilante means. And this brings us to his true legacy. His journey is an absolute masterclass in character progression. Just look at these milestones. Upon realizing the younger Sub-Zero, Kuai Liang, wasn't his enemy, he actually forgave him and vowed to protect him to atone for killing his brother. He re-established a totally decimated clan solely to act as a shield for Earthrealm. He expressed profound regret for killing Baihan, literally calling it a mistake born of rage. Going from a monster who mindlessly tortures enemies to a father figure who masters his own literal demons, that is phenomenal storytelling right there. All right, class dismissed. But before you go, I want to leave you with this final thought to apply to your own character design studies. When you look at the heroes and villains you absolutely love, look really closely at how they fight. Because if a character's mechanics are the truest reflection of their soul, what does your favorite character's moveset say about them? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep analyzing the incredible design all around you.